really thirsty today. Is anyone else thirsty? No. I haven't drunk any water today. Are you still drinking a pint every morning?
Aye. It's just salt lick.
Not water though.
Nope.
It's just a pint.
It's just a pint of
pint
gin.
of bitter.
No, it's a pot of gin. Just a pot of
Okay.
gin, pot of bed. When you wake
Straight
up.
gin.
You see, yeah, it's having that prepared before you get up. That's the way to eating. Yeah. Okay. Hello everyone and welcome to the third episode of Games, Movies, Etc. I am your host Josh and I'm here with my co-host Steve.
Hello.
How are you doing, Steve?
I'm good, thank you.
And I'm also joined by our first special guest, Jason Woods.
Thank you very much indeed, Josh. Steve. Thank you for having me on.
So some people may be wondering what qualifies Jason to be on the podcast, and it's because today is our first special episode, the Wii U-logy, in which we discuss...
Nice.
Well, yeah, I know. I'm really proud of that one, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Where we discuss our favourite Wii U games and just our experiences of the console as a whole. And Jason Woods is the only other person I know who owns a Wii U. So
Technically my son's, but yes, I'm there. I'm in the seat with him.
fair enough.
It's in your property.
It's in my property.
Yeah, that's what counts. I mean, obviously I know of people who have Wii U's, but they're all, games journalists and stuff. But personally, Jason's the only one who actually has one in his house.
Yes, you've revealed the fact that I don't now on the podcast.
Yes, I know. I'm sure a lot of people have lost respect for you now as a gamer for not having
I
a
can
Wii U.
only assume so, yes.
What can only be considered
I'm
the
sure
best console ever made.
My Twitter following will
Plummet,
rapidly diminish. Yes.
You and Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, this is
Yeah,
it.
that's where you
popularity
We're two
contest.
sides of the same coin
We're going to have a
almost.
poll now after this episode, which is who do you like more, Donald Trump or Stephen Harris? And I think if Donald Trump has a Wii U, his ratings are going to go very
I'd
high.
he does. He goes every weekend. He takes time off.
Yeah, exactly.
Plays golf.
Yeah.
Wii U a little bit.
Victory sip, everybody.
You need
There you
it.
go, there's some dead air while we all take a drink together.
Just at the same time. We maybe need to do
We're
hand
re-
signals just to when it's our turn to have a drink.
Hand
Don't
up.
tell that, Jason. So before we get to the Wii U, because that will probably take up the bulk of the conversation, have
Yeah.
we done anything?
Yeah, let's talk about stuff before we get into the Wii U, and I can't enter into the conversation.
We can just phase Steve out.
Yeah.
Go straight to
Maybe I'll just leave.
Yeah, you
No,
might
don't.
have to be fair, so
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. But let's do what we usually do and talk about, is there anything up to date? So are there any new releases or anything that you've watched recently that has been in the cinema or new games? Anything?
Or new telly.
Yeah,
New
or
telly
any
as
new
well.
etc. Have you
Yeah, any
bought
new
some
etc.
etc.
also.
or
Well, I suppose
experienced
the
some
little
et
thing, if it step in, they just
Please do.
I'll just
saw
jump
the
in.
advert of the Switch.
Yes.
And the new one for Zelda looks amazing.
Yeah.
Really does look.
There's no doubt about it. It looks fantastic. It really,
Really
does. Speaking as somebody who, as we've established, did not get a Wii U,
Yes.
this could well be. Now, on our first podcast, we did talk about the fact that I wasn't super enthusiastic about the first year's lineup of games, but between Zelda and the Mario game that's coming out,
Splatoon
Yeah.
2.
Splatoon 2, yes,
Looks
it
sweet as well.
it looks pretty good. But Zelda just looks phenomenal.
Well, now here's the question, Steve. If Zelda wasn't coming out on the Switch, would you have considered a Wii U just to be able to play?
Do you know, the truth is, there's a part of me hopes that when you get your Switch, you're going to give me your Wii U.
Give? Well,
Trade
lend.
off.
Lend. That's what I meant, lend.
Nice try.
No, yeah, but because it's the only game really that I'm super keen on at the start, possibly, if I could get a hold of an extremely cheap Wii U, which I assume after we do our Wii U-logy and officially put the last nail in its coffin, everybody will just be wanting to get rid of them.
Yeah, once we've
eBay will be
yeah.
flooded
Yeah.
with thousands of them.
Once they hear we've moved on.
Yes.
Well, the interesting thing is that I have been so caught up in the Nintendo Switch, coming out and all the build up to that like Zelda sort of ended up on the back burner. Like I remember when it was first announced at E3, and it wasn't even announced, just that image of Hyrule came up,
Yeah.
and it just looked incredible. And I was excited for so long, and then just with the announcements of the Switch and its release coming up, Zelda sort of took a back burner. And it's only been this week people on Twitter have just started, like, the excitement started to build again, and I've just gone like, there's a new Zelda coming out. Like, this is the pinnacle series for me, and it's something we'll talk about later on. But like, almost every game in that series, someone considers it the best game ever made or their favorite Zelda. You know, like there's sort of some general consensuses towards, like, Ocarina of Time being one of the best games ever made. But there are other people who will say Wind Waker is by far the best Zelda. Some people say Twilight Princess. Yeah. Some people say Link to the Past. And so, like, it's such an amazing
Does anybody
series.
say Skyward Sword?
I'm sure there are.
Sickos!
And I'm a huge defender of that game. Like, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And it has easily one of the most striking and amazing moments in any Zelda game ever. And, I'm actually excited to go back and play it. But, pile of shame, etc. There's just no way I'm going to be playing that anytime soon.
So as a Zelda newbie, I want to put it in there.
I can't believe we've had you on if you've never played a Zelda game.
I've played a Zelda game.
Okay,
I've played a Zelda game.
That's
a very small amount of it, but I've played on. So why was that one? Why did it have so many people down on it?
Skyward Sword?
Yeah.
Well, you'd be in a better position to answer that than I would, Josh.
Well, I think the funny thing is, because I enjoyed it so much, I find it hard to appreciate the criticism. But I know that one of the main things that Nintendo went with was Zelda's our flagship. People think that the Wii was only good for Wii Sports. We need to show them what a core game, not a casual game, can do with the motion controls. And for that, like, I absolutely loved it. And, there's talk about re-releasing it on the Switch without the motion controls. And for me, like, that's such a huge disappointment, because the knowledge that some people aren't going to appreciate what they did with that. On the other hand, some people gave up on it because they didn't like the motion controls. Sometimes, in terms of the game itself, your main home hub was a place called Skyloft, which was in the clouds over Hyrule. And so to access each place in Hyrule, you got on your big avatar like bird, which you flew, and again, that was amazing fun. And then when you got to the area you wanted to go into, it was like a circle hole in the clouds, and you just jumped off your bird and just flew down and then parachuted the last bit. Amazing fun. But what people didn't like about that was it meant that Hyrule as a land was segmented, and you couldn't walk from one area to the next. You'd have to go back up into the sky, fly to the next area, and drop down. So it didn't feel like one whole place. It just felt like loads of separate little places, which again, like, I appreciate. It could have been possible that they eventually somehow connected. Like, you got a power up that lets you go, really fast. Even just getting a Epona and being able to ride between areas. But like, again, that would have felt tacked on, and I just don't think it's a valid enough criticism. And same with the motion controls. Like, there's one of the early items you get a wee beetle, which you like fly, kind of like a drone, and you use the Wiimote and just move it around to fly it, which at times was hard, and you had to be quite accurate. But I mean, that's part of gaming. You don't want your hand held all the way. Sometimes when you were fighting people who your sword strikes had to be specific angles, it sometimes didn't quite hit. But again, I don't know whether that was because I wasn't doing it right or because it was too fine a thing for them to get accurate, but other people didn't have the same problem. And like, this now goes into like Star Fox, where people say it's unplayable in the Wii U, and I said in previous podcasts,
I've heard that. I've heard people say that it's too difficult. It's so hard.
Well, I haven't played it anywhere near enough, and I said this in a previous podcast, but the times where the controls clicked, it felt like one of the best things ever. And I think it just needs a bit of time, and I think that's a cool thing. I don't think many game designers are willing to take that risk. Accessibility and pick up and play is so important to people, but that's because of the mobile era and that mentality in the wider sense of gaming. But in terms of the people who've always been playing video games that aren't this new market, that have a short attention span, like, you need games that have a bit of depth and even are hard to start. And even Dark Souls, one of the best games ever made, was so hard to play at first.
Until you get the rhythm.
And once you have the rhythm of it, it feels completely right. And again, you would just go, these guys don't know how to make a game. And a similar comparison is Monster Hunter, which is a similar kind of game to Dark Souls, but the controls are so much harder to start with.
It's really difficult to get yourself moving, to get yourself into it, to get you into the rhythm of playing it. But once you're into it, it's amazing.
I think it's a question of what the game designer's intention was. If they have intentionally made the game to be hard to play,
Yeah.
if they've gone, right, we're going to start off, we're not going to spoon feed anybody, we're going to throw them in at the deep end, the gameplay is going to be hard as a rock, and it's well known that that's the case, and that's a part of the game. Dark Souls, Neo, the new samurai, well, what people are calling samurai Dark Souls, but when that's intentional, fine, that's cool. It's when a game seems to just be badly made, or the control scheme is difficult to an unfair degree, or that's when people have criticisms. I haven't played Star Fox, so I don't know where that sits on that line. One thing I was going to bring up, though, with all this talk of the new Zelda, was I heard, I'm a big fan of other podcasts and games media outlets, and I was listening to an IGN podcast the other day, and they talked about the fact that is the new Zelda, are all the things that they're doing with the new Zelda, they're new for a Zelda game,
Yeah.
but are they actually new?
Yeah.
Game types, concepts, and somebody brought up the fact that it's kind of the same as Resident Evil 7. Resident Evil 7 has been done in a different way now, but it actually isn't really bringing anything new to the table.
Yeah.
And it's probably true of Zelda. I think this new Zelda isn't actually bringing anything new to gaming. It's certainly bringing some new stuff to Zelda, and that's exciting. Things that Zelda maybe hasn't done in the past, but is it doing anything that, stylistically, is it doing anything that Rhyme or, those kind of games have done? Is it doing anything gameplay wise or world wise that Skyrim and all like these Bethesda games have done in the past?
Yeah,
it was an interesting point. It's impossible to know without getting hands on. So we'll have to reserve judgment in a way. But these guys probably have been hands on.
Yeah, well,
because they're heavy hitters.
From what we do know, it does look like it's aiming towards an open world game style that is something like The Witcher or Dark Souls, anything like that. But the reason why it's exciting is because it's new for Zelda. You know?
Exactly.
And people are saying the Zelda formula has gone stale, or it's just the same thing every time. Which I still consider inaccurate, but I'm obviously a big defender of it, and I think A Link Between Worlds is a good example of that. Like, the new gameplay in that is fantastic, being able to go flat against the wall as a mural and crawl outside a window, just because you're part of the wall now. But the point is, people were just saying, right, well, here's the next home console Zelda, what's it going to do different that makes it different from a previous Zelda?
Yeah.
And that's all it is, really.
And that's fair enough, and actually, the guys at Nintendo are among, if not the best makers of games in the world.
Yeah.
And if they have decided to do something that people have done in the past, well, we've got to think that they may not have done it first, but maybe they'll do it better.
Well, exactly.
So,
yeah.
Well, you can have hope.
Yeah, that is the hope. But I'll be interested to see. Zelda is exciting to me, speaking as somebody who has left the Nintendo fold for a while.
I know, I'm surprised you're allowed on this podcast as well. I know. Well, so Jason, what makes you excited about Zelda then?
The only real interest I have is the last one where you're able to become a mosaic, move around like that, which I think was amazing, and the gameplay in that was very good. And me and my son Tom were able to work and play with that quite nicely together, and he was really excited about it. So it made me excited about it. So this new one coming in, if it has more expansive play and maybe you've got a wider world, look at it. I think it'd be really, really very interesting and exciting to play.
A new Zelda is always exciting. Yeah. There's no... It's like a new Mario. It's like a new... these are big marquee games. You'd have to have a heart of stone not to get excited. Yeah, well, if you're a gamer, you're going to get excited about a new Zelda game. I would say, for the most part.
But certainly there's been something about the advertising and the trailers of it that have just made it look something special. To someone who doesn't know anything about the game or the history of it, just watching those trailers makes you go... I need to play that game. I don't know why, but just from looking at that trailer, something special is happening.
Funny, actually, that is something I wanted to bring up later in the podcast. and I probably still will, but I'll just mention it now. I thought a really good segment going forward, or at least maybe over a run of certain podcasts. We'll not do it because I'm springing this on you during the podcast. Maybe I've had a chance to think about it, but maybe do it next week or something. Best game ads, commercials.
Yeah.
Because the reason I thought about it was Halo Wars 2
Yep.
is coming out, or
Yep.
has just come out, and the ads for it are pretty cool. Halo ads are always awesome.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They really are. Like, there's no doubt about it. And that got me thinking, Halo ads have always been exceptionally good. In particular, I don't know if you remember the model-based one for Halo 3.
No.
You don't remember that one?
No.
Where it basically, the camera panned around this huge diorama of figures.
Yeah.
Like, literally, real world figurines. And it all sort of swept through. There's a short version of the ad, which is sort of them just sweeping through the battle, and then it pans up to Master Chief in the middle, which is cool. But they also did this whole marketing campaign where you've watched Band of Brothers.
Yes, of course.
When they start off by speaking to the old soldiers at the start, and then it goes back to this sort of fictional retelling of
Yeah.
it. So for the marketing campaign in its entirety, it was speaking to actors
Right.
as if they were these soldiers who fought in this war,
Yeah.
and talking about, I remember when we were pinned down by the Covenant and Master Chief came in and blah blah blah. Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Like,
that's cool.
Halo's
That's,
marketing
yeah.
campaigns have always been second to none. I actually personally think they're probably the best at it. But that got me thinking, what other amazing game ads have there been? So something to think about perhaps for the next episode.
Well, yeah, like going back to Zelda, the classic example would be the less acceptable now for the Ocarina of Time. Wilt thou save the girl or play like one?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not sure that they would market a game like that anymore.
I don't think that would fly anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I just thought that would be interesting. So
You've also reminded me of a feature that I was going to do for today, which we may have time to do, which was the second in our Josh's activity log, because we were going to go from the 3DS to the Wii U to see what games I've played the most on the Wii U. But
okay.
we can maybe save that for our Wii U section later.
Yes.
Because this time I haven't actually looked at it beforehand, so I'm quite curious myself to see what have I put the most time into. Last week we discovered I'd put in 110 hours into Pokemon Picross, which was quite a surprise.
That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And then
It's not really something I can relate to at the minute.
No.
and Animal Crossing, I was like, I played that for probably 20 to 30 hours. 80.
Yeah.
80 hours.
80
Basically,
hours of
it was
picking
a-
fruit and
It
fishing.
was basically a segment devoted to shaming Josh.
It sounds
how
like a
much you-
shaming.
how many
a
hours
shaming
you
part of the
devoted
podcast.
to.
But
But-
somehow it was my idea. I didn't realise it was going to be a shaming thing.
So a self-shaming.
Certainly that's how I felt at the end of it.
I say you did.
But to move things on slightly from gaming, I went to see Hacksaw Ridge last
Oh
week,
yes, of course.
because obviously you talked about it on the last podcast.
I know. Well,
and,
now here's
and I
the,
wanted to agree with everything that you said, Josh, basically, because it was really good.
now here's the dangerous thing. Jason, have you seen Hacksaw Ridge?
I haven't seen Hacksaw Ridge, but I've read a lot about it and I'm very interested to go and see
Well,
it.
I'm not.
Steve was so excited to talk to me about it because I had seen it and he hadn't, so I couldn't really talk about it. And
Yes.
he's like, "We'll be able to talk about it in the next one." And now
I
you
don't
haven't seen
really
it.
like
I don't
anybody who is going into that movie. I assume most people have some idea that this is the story of one of only 3 conscientious objectors who never held a rifle, who won a Medal of Honor. That's
Yeah.
basically it.
Yeah.
Everything else is, for heroic acts, which I
Mhm.
guess if you went into more detail about those, there's a spoiler there, I suppose. But really, all I wanted to say was, yeah, you were bang on the money. I thought it was a phenomenal war movie. And in a way that maybe we've seen in the past to a small degree, but this was a proper. Okay, if you've ever watched a war movie and thought, "Oh, that'd be cool, wouldn't it? It'd be cool to be." This is not cool.
Yeah.
This is far from cool.
gives you
Like,
the
yeah, this is
right knowledge about it.
visceral, gory. My wife, who came to see it with me, watched it through her fingers for the most part. The fighting scenes.
It is. I mean, it's a 15, but some of the
it's-
gore is the most graphic I've ever
And
seen.
yeah, and honestly, I think that it's not gratuitous. And I actually came away thinking, not only is it okay to be that visceral. I think almost there's a duty to do it. You know, it does a disservice to anybody who fought in that conflict to not show it in all its horrific entirety. Basically,
well, and especially towards him, because you know, if it all seemed like fine and dandy, you know, going after the bad guys, and I can just run in and grab someone, you know, that would really diminish what he did. Like he went into the absolute lion's den, you know, and you know, to save people. And so if it had just shown it in a more kid-friendly way, you know, to go, hey, everybody, isn't it great being a hero? You know, it would have completely diminished it. So
I mean, it made me realise how many war movies in the past have been so sanitized. You know, Saving Private Ryan is a good example of one that in its time felt pretty horrific, pretty hard to watch, pretty gritty, and it was, but this takes it to a different level. I think that the movie that it reminded me the most of was, stylistically anyway, was We Were Soldiers, which funnily enough starred Mel, although it wasn't directed by him. And it really got me thinking about just how brilliant a filmmaker, a director that Mel Gibson actually is. To the point where I think he will be, you know, and he's not that far behind him, but I do think he'll be talked about in the same way as Clint Eastwood. You know, because
thinking exactly the same thing.
Because, you know, when and actually the Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima, the two Clint Eastwood Pacific set World War II movies, they reminded me, you know, it was quite like it as well. But it was just interesting to be it's like what we talked about in the first podcast when we talked about zombie movies. You feel like nothing more can be done with a World War II movie, and yet here's a tale that until I knew Mel Gibson was making this movie, I didn't know anything about Desmond Dawes. You know, so
which is amazing.
So a movie worth making, a story worth telling. I'm not a fan of Andrew Garfield, but I thought he was brilliant in it. Really, really good. He had that sort of sweet country boy, good old boy sort of simplicity to him. And you know, a sort of wonderful naivety that he sort of brought to the role. And I just thought, you know, everything about the movie was great. Well written, well acted, well directed, beautifully shot, and nicely sort of you know, interspersed, well, not interspersed, sort of the bits of him meeting his future wife, deciding to join the army, and what made him become a conscientious objector, a man of peace. All of that was really, really well done as well, actually. And that was really probably where you saw a lot more of the subtlety that Andrew Garfield was bringing to the role as well. But yeah, really a moving.
Well, and as you say, you know, he comes across as this nice, you know, sort of naive country boy, but as I said in the previous podcast, then when it comes to him defending his convictions, there's no sense of naivety. It is a conviction, and it's something he truly believes, and you sort of sympathise with him in that sense, because it isn't just someone, you know, talking, you know, like an airhead going, I don't think it's right to hold a gun, you know, let's all put flowers in each other's rifles. Not to diminish that, but the point is, he's not coming across as a hippie who's just like,
no,
you know,
not at all. Like, this is a man of
and he says,
strong,
you know,
moral convictions who
and he says, you know, I'm not here to say these other boys shouldn't be doing it. I'm just here to say I'm going to do my part and what I feel is right for me to do in that situation. And also, the other thing I'd said to you before was that, you know, we've talked about how grim it is and how accurate a war film it is, but it is still a very entertaining movie, and it has
it does. It has. Well, I think a lot of that actually comes. The surprise package for me was Vince Vaughn.
Yes,
he was brilliant.
See, I consider Vince Vaughn a spoiler.
Oh, really? Well, I mean,
because it was such a lovely surprise.
Oh, I knew he was in it before.
I was sitting there going, how is this going to work? Like, I know what I've seen Vince Vaughn most for, and I haven't seen True Detective, which is, you know, one of his more serious roles. But for what I
Yeah,
went
this
for,
isn't
I
this
was
isn't
like, how am I
Dodgeball.
gonna- Yeah,
This is not the
exactly.
Vince Vaughn we know from Dodgeball or Wedding Crashers. This is a
Yeah.
different. But he brings some of that sort of fast talking, loudmouth humor to the movie, which, as you say, was unexpected. And
Yeah.
I think those moments of levity were good and
Yeah,
added
of
to
course.
the film.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I mean, I if you haven't seen Hacksaw Ridge, go see Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah,
it's a
absolutely.
phenomenal movie.
Well, you've set me on my path. I will be there.
Good.
Yes, well,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to see it again. Just to wrap up, actually, the Mel Gibson talk, like as you're saying, you know, like he's going to be remembered, and like if you look back in his career, he's got 3 Best Picture nominees. I know Braveheart was, Hacksaw is, and I think was Apocalypto.
Was Apocalypto? Yeah.
Yeah. All 3
Mhm.
are semi-historical.
Mhm.
I think Braveheart's maybe the least accurate of them. It's the most dramatized
Yeah.
and most artistic license taken, but you know, like he's got such an amazing record behind him as a director.
Passion was Passion not?
Passion, I don't think it
think
was.
it was a Best
No?
Picture.
Okay.
I think the thing with the Passion is I can understand how, as a movie, you know, it's one where he was going for accuracy
Mhm.
over entertainment. Like I would find it really hard to ever describe The Passion as entertaining.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
no,
And
that's
so for that
true.
reason,
Yeah.
I can appreciate why it might not be nominated.
But I mean, you do look back over the films that he's made, and I mean, he's been a controversial character in the past.
But
he
I'm
is
surprised
he
by
is a
how much of a-
phenomenal actor,
Yeah.
and a really, I would go as far as to say underrated director, in that I don't often think he would be talked about
No.
as a
One of
good
the
director.
greats, yeah.
If you start talking about good directors, people start going Spielberg, Scorsese,
Yeah.
Hitchcock,
Yeah.
you know, Kubrick. You know, you could go on, but I think people will get 10, 20, 30 directors in before most people will say Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
And that sort of belies the quality of his movie making. You know, I think he's a...
Well, and that's the thing.
That's
Like,
why-
if you look at all those other directors and the amount of films they've put out,
Aye.
they've
That's
had
what you
some.
have to think
They've
about.
had some.
Yeah.
And you
duds.
think his
Yeah.
is very niche. What he's
Yeah.
done is very niche, and some of them are hard to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Passion was hard to watch. Apocalypto was hard to watch.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You really had to want to, you had to literally like super glue yourself to the seat and say,
Mhm.
right, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to get through it because, as again I say, if you're saying what Hacksaw Ridge like with its graphic war depiction, that was very graphic in the way
Mhm.
it was put together as well, and how it
Yeah,
depicted
very much so.
the Indians, and it just really was kind of, ooh,
Yeah.
it wasn't nice.
But overall, if you were like, you know, going for directors who have a high, I don't know, Metacritic or Rotten Tomatoes, you know, sort of record,
Yeah.
like he's going to be one of the ones who's up there as having made, you know.
Yeah, I
directed
mean,
very
I'm
good
sure
films.
you could sit down and work it out.
Yeah.
It might make an interesting article on the site. I'm not sure. I think until you start writing it,
Yeah.
I might write it and decide whether or not it's actually interesting.
So
But,
having said all that, Mel Gibson for Suicide Squad 2.
Yes, I heard that actually.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is it that
It's-
they're
it's-
pursuing him?
I have no
Or-
idea. It's all I've read is headlines, and it is something along the lines of talks with Mel
Talks
Gibson
with him.
for, or talks about Mel Gibson
Yeah.
for Suicide Squad 2. And like, I always have this attitude of when I hear something like that, I'm like, well, this guy's a fantastic director, so he's going to make a good movie. And you know, Chris Nolan being an example of, you know, going into the comic books, making a great movie. Something that really excited me was Darren Aronofsky for the Wolverine. And when that didn't happen, I was devastated
Yeah.
because that guy would have made an unbelievable film.
Yeah.
And
Have you,
so
just to interrupt, and we'll come back to this, I'm sure. Have you heard all the buzz around Logan?
I have heard it and avoided it as soon as
Yeah.
I started seeing
because-
things. I was like,
yeah.
right, this is the film. I mean, I wanted to see it anyway,
Yeah.
and the fact that it's good, it's like, okay, shut down. I don't want to hear
Yeah.
anything else until I see this.
That's gonna be one that when we see it, we're talking about on this podcast.
Oh yeah,
Because
and the first trailer for it when it first came out, I was like, I was totally blown away. The
It
tone
looked-
of it, just
yeah, it looks
was
different.
Perfect.
This is
Yeah.
a different kind of
Yeah.
comic book movie. This looks. I mean, a lot of people were talking. It's very premature, but a lot of people were like, "Is this going to be the first comic book movie that actually has a story worth telling? Is it going to be Oscar worthy? You know, we'll see." But
Well,
you know,
and
the
that's
the
the
early
thing.
buzz is encouraging.
If you took the mutant gene out of that movie and watched that trailer, and say, you know, instead of actually, you know, his blades come out, he was just fighting people, and you watch that trailer, you would go, you know, this does look like The Road, or you know, any of those kind of classic, you know, adult looking after a kid movies that are very highly regarded, and so therefore, you know, just because you stick a comic book twist on it, does that mean that it's therefore going to be?
And hey, Patrick Stewart's still in it, a proper thesp, you know.
Absolutely.
So, but anyway, sorry, we're hopping about here. You were talking about
Mel for Suicide Squad. So I mean, it's one of those interesting things that it does make me go, you know, having now looked at his past output and going, how do I feel about him doing a Suicide Squad and that being on his record of like movies he's done? You know, even if he made the best Suicide Squad movie, it would seem so out of place on his resume. So part of me's like really excited by the thought, and part of me's like,
see, it won't happen.
No,
I
think Mel Gibson would be mad to touch it. And this is actually coming from somebody who didn't mind the Suicide Squad movie.
Well, I haven't even seen it, so I
haven't seen it yet.
No.
It's a hot mess, right? Okay, so it's
I've certainly been told it's hot, and there's hot people in it, but
it's a movie. It's a movie where they took loads of really good ideas and brilliant set pieces and action and a few bits of casting that maybe didn't, you know, resonate with some people, but whatever. and they shot it like just a total. It was a shambles. It was out of order. It seemed like sequences were missing.
Are you talking about Batman versus Superman, or?
I'm talking about Suicide Squad.
I'm just messing. Because you want to talk about that, and we will.
I'll defend Batman versus Superman to the death. Right, that's a great movie.
We'll do that in a minute. So
that's a great movie.
Go back to
Suicide Squad. No, it is a movie that you thought, you know what, if a really skilled director had come in and taken this by the horns and really directed it,
well, now,
like
this is
then it could have been a really good movie.
I'm worried.
It had enough good ideas.
Yeah, it did. Really had to be. It was like sometimes, you know, when you watch a movie, and sometimes you're tired, or you're not off, or you think, or you're distracted by something, and you come back to it, and you kind of go, "What have I missed? Has I missed something happened?" Which is Suicide Squad. You kind of think you're actually watching the movie, and you kind of think, "Did I blink?"
It's actually like watching a 2-hour trailer.
Really is.
That's actually what it's like.
No, that's the interesting point, because you did say if a decent director had come in and, you know, done something with it. Now, I think David Ayer is a decent director. In fact, I think he's a very good director. And the rumours that I'd heard was that it was not his fault, and that the potential was that the person who cut the trailer actually cut the movie. Now, I think maybe David himself has come out and denied that, and of course he would, but other people may have as well. But the fact that you said it looks like a trailer, everyone knows the idea of a trailer editor editing a full-length movie would be a disaster, and that's why you end up with like dialogue that you're like, oh, this is a bit where he says this, and in the movie
and then it doesn't happen,
because they knew that would make it good for a trailer, but that it wouldn't fit in the movie, and so that's where you know, my concern is that it wasn't David Ayer's fault, and you know, he's getting the blame, because you know, it sounds like the scenes themselves are well directed, but they're just in a completely wrong order.
They're brilliantly done. I think they're really done well, and I think
the action's certainly fantastic.
It's brilliant. But it's just something. You just kind of look at it and you kind of go, "What did I miss? Did I actually leave the room and come back in?"
Yeah.
And something
it is style over. I'm not sure if it's style over substance. It's style over order.
Yeah.
You know,
the substance is there.
Actually, there's some substance. There's a kernel of a good idea in there. Will Smith's very good. Margot Robbie's very good. I was not really on board with Jared Leto as the Joker, but I didn't hate it. You know, I was sort of like, this is just a different interpretation, whatever. You know, I'm not going to hate it just for that.
I think,
and anybody who hated it for Jared Leto's Joker is hating it for not a heck of a lot, because he's hardly in it.
No.
So, you know,
minuscule amount of time.
I think the problem that I had with the Joker in that film, having not seen it, but from what I've read, is not so much whether it was going to be his performance, but what they decided about his character, in that he's, you know, like is it a club owner or a mob boss or something like that?
He's definitely more of he's a thug, he's a gangster, he's an arms dealer. It's this kind of thing, you know. He's not the clown prince of crime that we have come to know and love, but neither was Heath Ledger. Well, he was not the Joker that everybody knew and loved either. He brought something different to the table, and he brought it to a much better movie.
Sure.
So, I can't help but think that maybe Jared Leto's Joker could work in a different film, directed in a different way. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to defend it necessarily because I don't think it's the best interpretation of the Joker. I think there was an opportunity missed. We talked about this sort of privately, Josh, that there had been this big rumor running up to Suicide Squad that that Jared Leto's Joker was in fact going to be Jason Todd, the former Robin.
Yes.
Under Ben Affleck, and bits in the trailer and in the movie where it says not in Suicide Squad but in Batman vs Superman, where it's written "ha ha ha" on the Jason Todd uniform.
Yeah, and you let him die.
A lot of people sort of thought.
Hey everyone, it's Josh. Steve is about to drop a mega spoiler for the Batman comics, so if you don't want to hear that, skip on about a minute and 15 seconds.
I mean, anybody who's read the comics knows that Joker killed Jason Todd. We'll not get into that big can of
spoilers.
But anyway, or did he? But anyway, so a lot of people were thinking, well, did Joker, instead of killing him, did he disciple him effectively? Is this a different Joker? Is this a Joker sort of protege, this one that we're seeing, and is the real Joker still out there? And when I heard that rumor and I started thinking about how that could play out in this movie, I was really excited. I was like, oh, that would be so cool.
Now that's an interesting point. Remember in one of the early trailers, you didn't see the Joker for ages, and then you just heard his laugh, and then it cuts to him, in the torture scene. Now, imagine if in the film, Jared Leto as the Joker had died, and then it was at that point that you heard that laugh, and the real Joker came out and was like, "You've just killed Jason Todd," telling Batman even, "You've just killed Jason Todd," and then him going, "Oh, nuts, I thought you'd killed Jason Todd, now I've gone and done it." Anyway, I mean,
But I mean, we could talk about...
Well, now's your chance to give your Batman versus Superman defense if you'd like.
Oh, really? Well, I actually thought I was going to move on to a different topic because it had me thinking about going to see Hacksaw Ridge. The King Arthur trailer was on before it, so I'd like to talk about that too. However, yes, I don't know what the problem was, frankly. I think everybody goes in sometimes just primed to just dislike a movie. I'm not saying it didn't have its problems. Was it dark? Was he a very angsty Superman? Yeah, okay, but he has been that way in some of the comics too. Let's not kid ourselves into thinking that this was the first interpretation of Superman where he wasn't, this pillar of everything, all American boy. Ben Affleck. Now, to be fair, I know that the vast majority of people thought Ben Affleck was a really good Batman. Yeah. Even people who didn't like the movie, thought
and as we saw in the tweet recently, Donald Trump had said in 2013 that he was going to be a good Batman. So, why were we worried?
But no, Ben Affleck was a great Batman and a good Bruce Wayne. Jeremy Irons was a very good Alfred. Yeah. I think Henry Cavill's a good Superman.
Yes.
Amy Adams is a good Lois Lane. Lawrence Fishburne's a good Perry. I read an article recently where people talked about the fact that in terms of pure cinematography, they're beautiful films, and they are. So
I think it's some of the dialogue and some of the way it was put together and some of the scenes between Batman and Superman, some of that stuff was just, you kind of look at it, you've read the comics, you know the kind of ideas, you've been in it, you've immersed yourself in it, you love it, and you kind of think, really? Could that have gone, so yeah, your mums both had the same name. That's fine. That's not going to stop a vigilante from literally with the spear. See,
no, this is one thing that I did actually sort of defend slightly. Okay. A lot of people sort of said, our mums have the same name, now we're best friends. It's like, no, that's not actually what it was. It was Ben Affleck's whole, Bruce Wayne, Batman's whole crusade against Superman was he was this alien that couldn't be trusted because there wasn't enough humanity in him. You know, he
Yeah.
couldn't see that he could
Yeah,
empathize with the human race.
I see that, yes.
With the human race, and therefore couldn't be trusted as their guardian. But when he talks about his mum, that reminds him this guy has a mother, a human mother who he loves, who he's doing this for.
Yeah.
You know, and that resonates with Ben Affleck,
Sure.
with Bruce Wayne, with Batman. It gives him a glimpse. Now, was it rushed? Could it have been? You know, yes.
I think
yes,
that's what I think. It was too rushed.
yes, but the idea itself was not as ridiculous as people thought, because everybody was like, "Oh, they're both mums. They're called Martha. Big deal." And it's like, well, that's not actually what it was. But you know, I take the point,
Yeah.
but I'll still defend it slightly. Yeah, I mean, to me, it was just a movie that was a much less extreme version of what had happened with Suicide Squad. There was so much in there to enjoy, so much, and it was let down slightly in places by some bad editing, some weird continuity. But for me, that didn't stop me from enjoying the films. I think people, you know, a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's too dark. There's not enough, you know, humor in it." It's like, well, you know,
What are you going to see? You're going to see
Yeah,
something that is.
yes, the
dark.
Marvel movies all bring a lot of humor into their comic book movies, but
But we don't
I
want
mean,
them all to be the same.
but
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan's Batman movies weren't exactly a barrel of laughs.
Yeah,
So, you know,
exactly.
I wouldn't see the fact that no humor as being a legitimate criticism. I just thought, you know, to me, and I actually watched it again recently. I watched it 2 weeks ago with my brother who was back home from Australia. He was of the same opinion. We watched it and we were like, you know what? I actually think I enjoyed it even more that second time
Yeah.
round. There are still things I didn't love about it. I didn't love Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, or
Right.
Lex Luthor Jr.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, in the same way that I enjoyed the movie more the second time round, I enjoyed him less.
Right.
You know, it's sort of something about him. I think he was just trying too hard to be too quirky.
Yeah.
Well, and
you know,
he was someone who said that so many of his scenes were cut that his character didn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, and if that's
um,
the case, then yeah, I mean,
The continental things I found quite hard with the cities being so close.
Yeah, it felt
With
really
Gotham
bizarre.
and
Yeah.
Metropolis being like across the bay.
yeah.
My mind couldn't
Yeah.
grasp.
Although
It
they,
makes
they're
no
taking a
sense.
helicopter?
Yeah.
although they are both in, you know, if you look at the fictional DC world map, they are both in southern New Jersey. You know,
Okay,
they
yeah.
are actually pretty close to each other.
Sure.
Not quite as
As
close,
cl-
admittedly, as in that
Yeah.
film, but that's relatively in keeping with
Yeah,
where they are
sure.
supposed to be geographically.
Well, I
speaking.
think maybe that's
Um,
the problem, that it then like sort of highlights the conceit of that like why does Batman need to exist if Superman is within flying distance? You know,
Yeah.
like, you know, just because
yeah,
it
that's
doesn't
one
work
of
in
the
the
things.
movie, and then you say, well, that's the way it's in the comics. Well, it's possible that doesn't work in the comics as well. You know,
Yeah,
it shouldn't
but
be
they
that
both
way,
have
but-
very different interpretations of justice.
Of course,
and,
yeah.
Superman, although very fast, is not omnipotent and
Yeah,
you know,
well, and that-
omnipresent. So,
yeah,
you
and
know,
that just it does open those wider points of like, you know, Superman seems to hang around Metropolis a lot. You know, why is
Yeah.
it the place that always needs saved? And same
Yeah.
with Batman. You know,
also
why-
he looks exactly like Clark Kent, but he's not wearing glasses.
yeah,
So
like he can literally work anywhere on the planet
Yeah.
and fly to work. You know,
But, yeah. So I mean, I don't want to take up too much of this podcast. I know we have a lot to get through. I'd be very happy to talk to other people about this. I enjoyed Batman versus Superman. I would give it a 7 to 7.5 out of 10.
I'd say,
Nearly said 8. You
I
nearly
would
said
be
8.
on the same page as Steve with that, and I'd like to see it again.
Possibly.
Yeah, I
See
would
where it
say-
was just to read.
Yeah. After my
regain
second
it
watch,
again.
it probably went up to 8. I
Yeah.
would go that far, and if that makes me an apologist for a bad film, so be it. I got my enjoyment out of it. I was
See,
entertained.
I'm not
by it.
saying I'm not nowhere near saying it's a bad film. I
Yeah.
think it's a great film. I really enjoyed it. I just found some of the continuity again.
It's-
Besides Suicide Squad, the
Yeah.
same things didn't quite match up.
Yeah.
Things were a little bit odd.
It's not
By the
even
way.
close to as bad as people say it is.
No.
Like that's
Yeah.
that's the thing. There's people out there who are like, oh, it was just a mess. It's a 1 or 2 out of 10, and you're like, that's just
There's a
silly.
very anti-Snyder crowd as well.
Yeah, there is,
You
and
know,
like the
which I
guy
think are
has
unfair.
his limits, but he shoots a beautiful movie for
yeah.
one thing.
Yeah.
You know, he has, you know, but I guess coming off the back of that, you know, Ben Affleck dropping out of being the director of the new Batman movie, that kind of worried me because I thought he was the best thing about Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
And I thought you know, and he's another guy who's a great director. Actually,
is.
you know,
Superb.
Ben Affleck's a very good director. So I sort of thought I was really excited about the Batman movie. I still am.
Yeah.
If he leaves as the star.
Oh, yeah.
Which is another rumor, but I don't know.
See that happening.
I don't see it
think it's
happening
too
either.
soon for that to happen.
Yeah,
I think he needs
but,
to need a couple under his belt.
Assuming he's still in it and he's still involved creatively, which I think he is. There's a lot of great directors out there.
Yeah.
Who, you know, and I read an article the other day. It was like 10 directors who could take over.
Yeah.
You know, there's plenty of good directors.
Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson, yeah.
There you go.
See, and do you know the strange thing is actually Mel Gibson doing a Batman film
Wouldn't be as
excite me
bizarre.
more than, you know, a Suicide Squad film.
Yeah.
Ironically, but that'll never happen either.
See, it's and the Batman movie's supposed to be him versus Deathstroke, which
Yeah.
I think would be really cool.
Yeah, I think.
And it's, what do you call him, Joe Mangle the Nemo?
Yes.
Which I have just done as Deathstroke, which, you know, yeah, he's certainly physically up to the role. So
I mean, an interesting point that came up there is like watching the movie a second time, you know, to give it its fair judgment. And actually, Mark Kermode said that about Jackie, which is quite a surprising one, in that
the Natalie Portman.
Yeah, like he found that throughout the film he just didn't know how to take Natalie's performance, and then it was only basically at the end of the film and on reflection he realised what she'd been doing, and watched it a second time and absolutely loved it as a result of, you know, understanding the performance. That she's someone who's like acting like one thing but then actually also acting like something else. So it's Natalie Portman acting as Jackie, who's also acting like she's, you know, a strong person in the face of what's happening. You know, so it's like there's layers to her performance. And so, but the point is, overall, you know, this is a film critic saying it took me two watches to get
two
this
views
film.
to find out.
And I think that actually happens a lot.
Yeah,
you know, I think
absolutely.
there are films that, you know, we live in a time where we're bombarded by so much. There's so many movies come out. There's so many games, and most of the time they have one chance to get it right with most people.
Yeah.
But that's a shame because some films do deserve a second watch. Some games deserve a second play. You know, you get more out of them on the second go.
Yeah. And it sort of brings me to my second point, which was like when it came to Age of Ultron. You know, my big criticism of that was it was the long weekend of Ultron. You know, like the trailer had so much promise for being this epic disaster movie, you know, and then it just sort of happened, and there was only really one scene of, you know, any kind of disaster where the Earth could have ended, but you know that's not going to happen. Whereas the trailer sort of suggested there was going to be a lot of suffering before that point, before the Avengers finished it. And so when it comes to then Infinity War, you know, it's Infinity War, it's not Infinity Battle, and they've gone, this is going to take two films to do it justice. And we were discussing on Twitter, like, you know, comic movies are so popular these days and rake in so much money, no matter how good they are. Batman vs Superman still made a lot of money. So did Suicide Squad.
Ant-Man.
Well, Ant-Man was a good film. Okay, I'm really not.
I like that.
I love that, man.
Primarily due to Paul Rudd.
Well, exactly, of course.
He was good, yeah. But
And also, some of Edgar Wright's writing was still in there, and like that's just a joy. But I think what would have made Batman vs Superman good would have been if it had been
or better.
2 or 3 films.
Good.
Sorry, fair enough. It was good.
Yeah, and no,
that's where they should have gone.
Yeah, no, that's one thing that I had this conversation with a friend of mine, and we've had this conversation many times. The biggest problem DC have at the minute is they never laid the groundwork for their multi-star movies.
Yeah.
Batman versus Superman should have been Batman versus Superman. It should not have had Wonder Woman in it.
Yeah.
And
it was so
possibly,
together.
you know, maybe not even Doomsday.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
you know,
I don't think so either. You know.
So, you know, and they're rushing to the finish line with these movies. So Justice League now is their third DC combined universe movie.
Right, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, this is a Justice League movie. I mean, Batman versus Superman introduced, albeit briefly, introduced us to Ben Affleck as Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Cyborg, and Flash.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You know,
but the trailer for Justice League suggests all those introductions are still to happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah.
It's like,
yeah, and
that's worrying as well. You know, like the Marvel universe did it the right way.
Yeah,
Each
everybody
person
has to have their
film.
own movie with a little bit of a, you know,
you do combination,
post credits, you know, little scene of and then you have your, you know, your Avengers film or something like that. You know, they don't all have to be Avengers movies. I mean, Captain America, Civil War, that was a Captain America film, but nobody could see, by the way. This is a non-video podcast, but I just did air quotations.
I've surely got the two.
But yeah, DC just have got it all the wrong way around. That's the truth of it, and that's what made, you know, they tried to shoehorn maybe too much into Batman versus Superman, and that's one, I think, legitimate criticism that I would have of it. You know, they tried to do too much.
Yeah.
And now they're all in. It's too late. Yeah. They can't go back.
You can't strip back.
You know, you can't go back now. So they've got a Justice League movie coming out, and then they have Wonder Woman is before Justice League, or is
I think Wonder Woman comes out before Justice League.
So. But certainly Aquaman, any kind of a Flash or Cyborg movie, any of those kind of things, they're all coming after. You know, so it's just crazy.
And a really poorly put together introduction to those characters in a Justice League film could mean that no one wants to see those films. You know, like if they don't do a good job of making those characters.
I think that's the one criticism that I really 100% agree with is that they have not done their combined universe justice.
Wow.
Hey,
whereas
you
the
know,
other guys, you can marvel at what they've done.
Yeah, wait, hello. No, they did it right. They took the time to just lay the groundwork, make us care about the characters. You know, let us know why it's worth watching them, and then make us excited for the fact that, oh my goodness, we're going to see them all in the same movie.
Yeah.
You know, it was a rush to the finish line for DC. But you know, that's not to say that the ship can't be righted. Yeah. You know, so
they could redo, they could move around, they could bring it back together.
And I still have, you know, I'm still excited about the Justice League movie.
Yeah. More Batfleck. That's all I need.
I'm excited about a standalone Batman movie. I'm not super excited about the Wonder Woman movie, although I'm interested in it. Primarily because Wonder Woman was never a comic book character that I was into. Not in any kind of a male-female way. I into a lot of female characters too.
But you see, I had the Wonder Woman TV series.
Okay,
so I grew up with the whole golden lasso and the spinning and turning into the spandex and all that kind of stuff, which was, as a kid, you had Hulk, you had all those kind of things going on, which was really quite good 70s TV, and it was really quite cool.
I think Wonder Woman's a cool character. It's just you can't be into everything, you know. So
Jason, what was your reaction to Wonder Woman in Batman vs Superman then, having watched that show growing up?
I thought they kind of made her more. I read a bit of Wonder Woman. I jumped and dove into many different comic genre when I was younger. But when you read about it, she does give that kind of that Amazonian, which they kind of did quite well in Batman vs Superman. Yeah. But I'm the same as you, Steve. Kind of think, why? Why is she here? Why is she doing
just
this?
Too much.
It was, you're trying to cram too many things into it.
Yeah.
I think, brilliant standalone Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Be a good movie if you hadn't already had her kind of shoehorned into the Batman vs Superman movie.
I don't think it would have been a bad idea, maybe, to the party scene.
Yeah, just that maybe it just had it there.
And then that's her gone. That's her. That's it. That's
a little bit of mystery. Who's this woman?
That would have been pretty cool. And then do all that, you know, her coming into it later on as Wonder Woman, in, you know, maybe in Justice League, or that would have been far better. But
it's an interesting concept and all that kind of thing, and then just the kind of all that kind of growth, that kind of the start off of the Hulk movies and everything like that, how that built, I thought was quite interesting. And then you got the Iron Man movies, and that all came together really quite well.
Yeah,
because even like the Hulk movies, they weren't very well received.
No. But, well, I mean,
But when Hulk then ended up in the Avengers movies, like people love him.
Mark Ruffalo was a better Banner than Edward Norton.
Yeah.
And if you want to go to Eric Bana, although he was not part of that combined universe.
Yeah, but see, I liked both Hulk movies, I think, except that the Hulk in Hulk didn't look great.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The actual animation didn't look great. And I do remember, I can't remember much about either films, but I do remember enjoying Edward Norton as well.
Yeah, no, I liked Edward Norton okay, but I just think Mark Ruffalo, I think the problem was with Edward Norton, still kind of looked like he could kind of handle himself as Edward Norton, as Bruce Banner, whereas Mark Ruffalo has more of a vulnerability that that then is
endearing.
Would be more 70s accurate in a way.
Yeah.
It would be this kind of weak looking scientist man gets pushed around a lot by nasty fellas, then explodes and rights all the wrongs.
Plus, Mark Ruffalo's a really good actor, so
that's true.
But yeah, right. So
and the dogs in the first one freaked me out. I don't quite know why they needed.
Oh yeah, that was
gamma weird, enhanced animals.
They were weird. Yeah.
It was just weird.
Keeping on just a similar topic, but to move on slightly to something else, I finally finished Luke Cage. Are you watching any of the Marvel Netflix series?
No. Any good? I've seen it. Is it good?
Yeah, I would sort of, in terms of all of these Netflix shows that are leading up ultimately to culminate in a Defenders show. Daredevil, the first season, was my favourite.
Yeah.
And then probably followed by Luke Cage.
Right.
Most people I see seem to consider Jessica Jones the best one. I actually kind of think that was my least favourite.
I watched a bit of Jessica Jones. It wasn't great.
I thought David Tennant was brilliant in it.
Yeah,
he was really, really good in it.
Yeah.
But Luke Cage, I just really loved it. I thought Mike Coulter's really well cast as him.
See, I think I then know him from Good Wife.
As
the gangster, as the drug dealer.
What do you call him? Levon Bishop. Is that it? But I think he's very well cast. He's also Locke in Halo 5. I think he's very well cast. He's very, very good in the role. More Rosario Dawson as Claire Temple, which is brilliant. I like the cast. I don't know the actress, but Misty Knight, brilliant. Just thought it was a really good cast. And it's set in Harlem. It's a proper Luke Cage story. This is him, and Jessica Jones was very much Luke Cage out of his element in a Jessica Jones story. Whereas now on the streets of Harlem, where he grew up and surrounded by all that culture, and the soundtrack's phenomenal. It's really well chosen music. I could say something really pretentious by like the music is the real star of the show, and I suppose I just have, but it's a good show. I've really enjoyed it. Iron Fist starts in less than a month.
Really?
It's
wow.
March 17th. So that's
another Netflix original.
Yes. So that's Danny Rand as Iron. That's his real name. I don't know if you're familiar. It's not the actor's name. That's his name in the show.
Yeah.
So that's March 17th. And then I didn't know this, but Defenders apparently is this summer.
Right, okay.
So, yeah. They're getting these they're firing out these Netflix Marvel.
Do you know, and that's the problem.
Originals.
Like when it comes to like TV shows at the moment, like I'm just swamped. And
there's so much out there to watch.
And so there's stuff like, I still haven't even seen season 2 of Fargo, and I loved season 1 of Fargo, and I absolutely loved the movie.
See, I wouldn't say I'm saving Fargo, but it's just I have so much else that I'm watching at the minute that I'm dying to get to Fargo. I haven't even watched season 1. Like
you've got a wonderful thing in front of you.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm really.
It is amazing.
See, because you're on the other end of the scale for me, where I'm looking at all the Defender stuff going. This is all leading to one thing, and so there's so much of it to watch. whereas everything else is like single TV shows. You know,
well, have you not watched any of the?
None. Literally
You
none.
haven't watched Daredevil?
No,
It's so good.
I know. and
Just
that's the
watch
thing.
Daredevil.
Like
even.
even yeah, and I think
I have to. Even my mother-in-law has watched Daredevil,
okay.
so you need to get in there.
Maybe I just haven't gone over the Ben Affleck film.
Yeah,
But,
this is not the Ben Affleck film.
yeah.
No,
But-
it's really good.
But I sort of
It's
feel
really
like
good.
if I want to start one of those shows, I'm like investing in the whole Defenders series, and I have to watch all of them to then.
You
watch the
could
TV show.
definitely watch the first Daredevil season one and just leave
That's
it at
tempting
that
me.
if
And
you
then
wanted.
when
because-
Jessica Jones came out and it was getting quite a lot of hype, I was like oh that's very tempting as well.
yeah,
And so, but yeah, I just haven't gotten around to it.
yeah.
And one last movies thing, then I think we're gonna have to move on soon. Is
One last, but I had another one I wanted.
right, okay. Well, we'll keep going with movies, but the
I
one
really,
that's-
I really wanted to talk about Lego Batman as well, and we're not going to get into
Maybe
Lego
we should
Batman.
talk about that because
See, here's the problem, right? Our podcasts are going to end up getting. I mean, last week's podcast was 2 hours long.
yeah,
We've already been going here for I don't know how long, but
like an hour, so it was
an hour,
hour
just
and
over
12 minutes. Yeah.
This is,
But the thing is, like, I mean, I'm used to listening to the Midnight Resistance podcast, which is usually 3 hours long, and
Yeah.
it's not very good with 3 hours when it started, so I'm not really concerned about length of time. Depending, though, we could cut it up if we, it
Yeah.
could end up being a Wii U special as a separate thing, and this will be a
Yeah.
separate movies one. But the news that we've been discussing on Twitter, which has utterly devastated me, and I'm still quite sad about, is Hellboy 3.
Okay, well that's good because I can actually segue quite neatly into what I wanted to talk about from that. So
Very good. Well,
that's good.
I mean,
Hellboy 3, I'm completely out of the loop.
wow.
Yeah.
Have you
Yeah,
ever
it's-
seen any of the Hellboy films, or?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I read comics.
So
I
you
did a
didn't.
little
So
bit.
you didn't see that Guillermo del Toro went on Twitter yesterday and said that it's
never
dead.
happening.
The third one is dead. It's official. It's not happening.
Honestly,
Now,
after
what-
the Golden Army, I thought it's put together. There's a nice step forward here,
Yeah,
and you
I
can
know
move it
it's
together.
Now,
bad
what was
news.
really interesting
Bad news
is
all
that
around.
I'd always seen this as Del Toro and Ron Perlman, like as a team, a creative team. This is the way Hellboy's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Ron Perlman, as you retweeted, Steve, put up, superhero for sale or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. He put out a very humorous tweet. He retweeted Del Toro's tweet
Right.
and quoted above it, "Superhero for hire likes cats." I can't remember what else it
Yeah,
was,
but
you know.
the point is, like, for me, that sort of suggests
Cigars and big guns.
is he happy to do Hellboy 3, even if Del Toro isn't?
It'd be very different. There'd be a whole new universe you have to create around him because Del Toro is amazing, and the way he put things together, and the whole
you see, it
mystical
depends on
side of
who-
it.
It depends on who wrote the story and who has the rights to that, because apparently they had an idea for how the third one would happen, and maybe Del Toro would allow someone else to do it.
Yeah.
But
But that implies though that it's Del Toro who doesn't want to, because it seemed to me like so this all started a month ago
Right.
when he put out a tweet and said, if I get something like 100,000 retweets, I will make sure that I sit down with Ron Perlman and what do you call the creator?
Magnolia.
Yes. And he got them, and he got the retweets, and he, good on his word, he sat down with them. The upshot of which was, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Right.
But he's the one who went into that wanting to make it
Positively,
happen.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or wanting to make it happen. Perlman seems like he wanted
Oh
to.
no, he's very much up
So
for
that
it, yeah.
kind of leaves us in the point, or at the point where we're going, okay, so is it
Is it Mike?
Is it
Or-
Mike who
Yeah.
isn't keen for this third movie to happen?
And like I said, if the idea of the third film is to wrap up the Hellboy tale in the way that The Dark Knight Rises did, which a lot of people were unhappy about, maybe Mike didn't like the idea of having Hellboy wrapped up in a bow and being like, this is the way.
I
This is
don't
the way
know.
it
I mean,
ends.
I think it's a big shame because as we had, like, it was with Bryn from Force Magazine. Little shout out to our fellow. He runs a very similar site to our own, and we were having this conversation on Twitter. And yes, the story was that Guillermo wanted something like around 120 million as his budget.
Yeah.
Golden Army made 160 million on its box office worldwide. There's not a studio in the world. There's not nobody's putting up that kind of cash for a 40 million return.
But
it was assuming it made the same. The first Hellboy, its budget was 60 million. It made 90. Golden Army's budget was 80 million. It made 160 million. So it doubled its investment. Brilliant. I don't know. You could look at that and go, well, the growth was exponential.
Exactly.
But I find it hard to believe that the Hellboy audience is bigger now than it was then.
I don't know. I'd say just the way movies are going at the moment, there is a step that you could say, do it.
Yeah,
because people will.
Yeah.
There are kids now that wouldn't have probably gone to see it, would go, oh right, we've seen that. We've kind of moved into different comic reading and everything like that.
That's true, and that's the point you made on Twitter last night, Josh, was that the first Hellboy was 2004, prior to the real big comic book movie resurgence. Iron Man was really the thing that made comic book movies popular, and it was 2000 and... Oh, I'm not sure.
I was going to say 9, but surely it can't be that late.
Well, it could be 2009 because Golden Army was 2008. So assume then that the Hellboys were maybe just made out of time. They were made in a,
Iron Man was 2008.
So same year. So the two Hellboy movies, both of them came out before we had this popularization of comic book movies. It's now not geeky niche stuff. Everybody watches comic book movies.
When the first Hellboy movie came out, it was really, if you didn't know who he was, there's no way you were going to go and see it.
It's the same as Blade, Wesley Snipes' Blade.
Yeah.
I remember when it came out, and I don't think it sort of got away with it because I don't think anybody really knew it was a comic book movie. It was just a vampire movie. But Hellboy
was still riding on that height of vampire movies.
Yeah, but Hellboy was very niche, and you could be right. I guess maybe given the popularity of comic books and comic book movies and the fact that it's no longer seen as geek subculture but a big part of mainstream culture. But actually, so in two ways... Well, sorry, I don't know if any more comments on Hellboy 3 and the fact that it's not getting...
The only thing I'm diving back into now is I used to read Blue Beetle. Did you ever read?
Yeah, Blue Beetle, yeah.
So I'm just thinking Hellboy coming in, maybe somebody will just slip in there and do a Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
Anybody out there?
I think it's a shame. The other thing is Ron Perlman's 69 years old.
Is he not 66?
Well, he's certainly, he's eligible for a bus pass, let's just say that. So, the man keeps himself in good nick, but he's still a pensioner. Yeah. Point being, if they don't make a Hellboy 3 soon, he's not going to be physically up to the task. Now, yes, they can use all sorts of special effects trickery to do that, but, at the same time, you've got what... Reasonably, it has to be made within the next 5 years max, probably, I would say. Because
that tail's got to be heavy.
And I suppose
even all that prosthetic stuff, that fist, the fake chest that they put on him, that's gotta...
The stumps.
I think the important point to make is
plus he'll want to get his dinner by about 5 PM, so he'll need to clock off,
The important point to make is that Hellboy will return, much like James Bond. Something is going to happen at some point in the future. And
doubtless there'll be some reboot again.
But the disappointment that we're not getting is the Del Toro Perlman.
It's that specific set of ingredients that made it special.
Yeah.
That does sort of lead me neatly on to two things. It's one thing, but it's in two parts that I want to talk about. First of all was. I think one of the biggest tragedy is a strong word. The biggest downsides to Hellboy not getting made now is it was a comic book movie, but Golden Army certainly was a really good fantasy movie too.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, at the risk of duplicating what I'm about to say here, this is an article I'm working on for the site too, so I'll try and be sparing with what I want to talk about. But when the Lord of the Rings movies came out, most people, it was one of those geeky subculture things that actually managed to, even before the movies, a lot of people had read The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. So it was one of those sort of big fantasy epics that managed to jump into mainstream culture and make a ton of money in the process. And yes, the Hobbit movies have come out in the interim, but, and this has come off the back of a conversation I was having with a friend of mine, I think we all thought that at that point fantasy movies would become the next big thing. They would be like, okay, so fantasy movies are not uncool anymore.
No.
You know, everybody's going to start liking them. We're going to see, and you know, the wealth of source material that we have to make movies out of. You know, Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time books. You know, all sorts of, like, there's always this is the next set of, this is the Lord of the Rings for this generation books.
Yeah.
So there's loads of source material to make movies from.
Pratchett, maybe.
Pratchett, yeah.
Even some C.S. Lewis.
And C.S. Lewis, they have they have either tried to make movies out of fantasy films that have not really worked, or just haven't hit home with audiences, or they, you know, things have been stuck in limbo forever. Some things have worked. You know, Hobbit, okay. Stephen King's Dark Tower is now getting made with Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey. Very excited about that.
Is Ron Howard still involved in that?
No, it's that all sort of fell apart.
Dark Tower dive in here. Are they making each book separately as one film, or are they extending?
So
it
it's quite an interesting one actually. What they're doing is they're making a movie, and it seems actually now like the movie is actually a sequel to the books, like
right.
the, you know, it's
It's
like
beyond
the
final one.
So that's kind of what it seems to be hinting at. People are not sure. This is the new big debate, but they're also making a TV show that will go between multiple movies and stuff. It's all got a bit convoluted and complicated.
It was bad enough trying to wait to make sure he finished writing
I know.
let alone having all that going on as well.
So my sort of point was that just when fantasy films were about to become cool, comic book movies clicked, and they became the geek subculture that became mainstream, kind of at the expense of fantasy, I think.
But I think the point that you hit on accidentally is that there was actually quite a lot of fantasy dross that came out as
No,
well.
I mean that was not an accident. I made that point very intentionally.
I think that put a lot of people off.
No, it did.
It was around the rise of, you know, good CGI as well, and so there was a lot of bad CGI as well. And you know, like you look at some films that were like one-offs, like Dragonheart. I love that film. Yeah, and it was some of the best CGI ever. And then people were like, "We can put dragons in anything now."
There's a film called In the Name of the King with Jason Statham in it, which is probably the worst film I've ever seen in my entire life. You know, it's one of
Netflix, isn't it?
It's one of the few films I have actually turned off and gone, no. Wow. You know what? This is
for Steve. That's
you see, I ploy through, even if I'm not enjoying a film. I'm like, no, I have to finish it. But so my point was going to be, there's still source material out there, and Hellboy could have, you know, it was the one that kind of married two things. Yeah, it was a comic book movie, but it was also kind of a fantasy movie, and I would love to see more good fantasy films getting made. And that sort of leads me on to my second part of the point, which was, while I was at Hacksaw Ridge, I saw the trailer for King Arthur. Yeah. Guy Ritchie's depiction is iconoclastic.
Excuse me, Guy Ritchie?
Yes.
King Arthur?
Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. Not even Guy Ritchie King Arthur. Guy Ritchie King Arthur fantasy movie. Yes, like it's not even just.
It's not even layer cake. No,
this is not like this
the
is not
cake for the 5th century.
No, this is not your sort of typical Arthur depiction. Yeah. Now there have been a few pretty weird ones over the years, actually.
That's true.
But this is full-fledged fantasy, and you know, in the official sort of blurb for it, it's called an iconoclastic version. Basically meaning that this is turning the legend on its head. Yeah. And by the looks of the trailer, very much so. But I like the look of the trailer. I actually like the look of it. I think that interestingly, the trailer that there was a new trailer released yesterday, which looked really good, but it didn't look Guy Ritchie at all. Okay. It just looked like it was like, oh, this is a big fantasy epic film. Looked pretty good. But the Comic-Con trailer from about 6 months ago looked like a Guy Ritchie film. Sure. The way it was shot, so it did a lot of that kind of, you know, they're all talking with these Cockney accents, you know, which is, I think it's fun. Like, it's set in Londinium, you know, the precursor to London, fine. And the way it's shot, a lot of that sort of shotgun movement, moving from thing to thing, zoom ins, pauses, rewinds, slow motion. Very typical Guy Ritchie style of making a movie, which I actually thought, well, you know what, this could work quite well. He's made some duffers over the years, but both of his Sherlock Holmes movies were pretty well received.
Yeah. He's made some very good films.
And go back to Lock, Stock and Snatch. The
Right.
guy's got skills.
Yeah.
So I'm choosing to be
Open-minded.
and it could be, apparently it's the start of a 6-movie
Wow.
deal that they're going to be making 6 movies of this. So, this could be our next big fantasy epic, but, it'll all depend on how this first one does.
Is there enough King Arthur things to make 6 movies?
Who knows,
But that's the thing, if they're just going off on one in a fantasy style, like they could
This
King
is
Arthur and the Clangers.
I'm pretty sure King Arthur is what do you call it? When you're allowed to use it,
open source, not open source.
I can't
artistic
remember.
license.
Public domain.
Public domain,
Yeah.
yes. So he's
Well
basically
done.
free to do whatever he wants with it.
Nobody's got a copyright on that.
Yeah,
Bit of fantasy.
I'm very interested to see how this will all pan out. I think it comes out in May. And it has Charlie Hunnam from Sons of Anarchy and Pacific Rim in it as Arthur,
Yeah.
who has the dubious distinction of being the only English actor I know who can't do English accents. So there you go.
Can you do an English accent, Jason?
By all accounts, no.
Not a good one.
Not a good one. Not one that people recognise.
So anyway,
Have you
I was trying to get as much movie stuff in there as possible before we moved on.
Yes, I think in order to have you for part of the Wii U section, we need to move on. So
all of our millions of listeners, I'll have to slope on out of this podcast in the next 15-20 minutes. So,
but this is.
But I'm bringing nothing to the table in the Wii U discussion.
Don't worry, I've got stuff that you can talk about.
Okay.
We're bringing. The purpose of this section is that it's our Wii U-logy, which, I realised my intention was that it's the end of the Wii U, and that's what the plan is. But technically, it's also the end of the Wii era as a whole. The naming convention is now over, so it's the end of.
As our not really motion control.
Well,
sorry, as his second screen. Sorry, is what it was.
Yeah, and certainly in terms of using the Wiimotes, so far Nintendo have said they're not going to work. With your
that's true. No backwards compatibility.
Which is a huge mistake, and hopefully they will rectify it. But it's potentially their way of saying the Wii era is done and over.
Yeah.
But and I suppose I just wanted to start before we talk about the Wii, just defending the Wii as well. That that was a fantastic console with so many amazing games. It wasn't just Wii Sports. You consider the Mario Galaxies, Smash Bros, all the typical Nintendo stuff, but then also there are just plenty of other amazing third-party games on that console and so many creative things. And that's what's true of the Wii U, but less people are aware of it. Even only 2 out of 3 people in the room are currently aware of it.
Hey, well, 3 out of 3 might be aware of it. They just didn't.
But,
it didn't click.
I mean, as we all know, as soon as Nintendo release a console, or even before they release a console, they're already working on the next thing.
Yeah.
So the point is, when did you first become aware of the Wii U, or what was the defining moment for you? And when I look back, the thing I remember so distinctly was when Reggie announced, so we've had Wii, the idea is that we play together, and now we want to focus on the core gamer as well, so we've got Wii U, and I just remember that announcement, and just the absolute disappointment that I felt when I heard that. And I mean, I actually quite like the name Wii U now, but it fell so flat for me. I just was like, stop making your video game consoles puns. Do you know what
and
I
I
mean?
think honestly, to be honest with you, it kind of started the whole thing. It was almost like from minute one that was the problem.
Yeah.
Because that was, there was a lot of confusion. We spoke about this in a previous podcast. There was a lot of confusion out there among people who maybe weren't. So the Wii hit with a lot of people who were not core gamers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that was great. It brought a lot of people into the fold, shall we say.
Yeah.
I
meant families were playing together.
But because those people weren't core gamers who were pretty well clued in on games and game systems and things like that, once the Wii U hit and it looked the same, and it was called the Wii U, most of those people thought the Wii U was a peripheral for the Wii. They thought the tablet was a peripheral for the Wii that they didn't really need because the Wii was fine. That I've spoken to people who said that. That was the big problem. They didn't do enough to differentiate it from the previous sort of. Now you could say the same thing about, loads of consoles have been at PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4, but even just a number tends to denote the fact that it is different. It's an upgrade. The problem with calling it Wii U was that there was no, to the lay person, there was no obvious clarity that this was a brand new system, more powerful, more features, and so it didn't sell.
It's funny because I haven't had the experience of someone going, oh, is that a Wii U periphery, or is that a periphery for the Wii? I've had people go to me, what? I said, when I say Wii U, they don't even know what I'm talking about.
Well, that's happened to me too.
It is so niche though. There's so many people. So they had the Wii, brilliant, super. Like we got the Wii U, and literally everything on the Wii, that was it. We plugged it with. We thought they're going to be quite compatible. We can put the games in. We can do this. We can play quite nicely. But we put that on one TV, and then the Wii just stopped.
Yeah,
it was completely killed.
The way that the
way they've done it, the way you set it up, the way you process it, the way you put it on, kills it.
Yeah, what I found out was that when it's like when you get a new 3DS, like you transfer your profile over, and it sort of wipes your old 3DS, so you sell it on, or you trade it in. And so basically, it's the same process for the Wii to the Wii U, in that all your data and info goes from the Wii to the Wii U, and as good as bricks, your Wii. It's basically a new console for another person. And so if you want to play your old games on it, you have to set up a new profile and start those games again. The only way to play them from where you were is to play them on your Wii U, which, I mean, it's just another list of Nintendo's just not understanding, game
and the compatibility between games and how that works as well.
Yeah,
like we put in old Skylanders, and it kind of it's how it's struggling. To be able to get them working, or for things to work together, or you're trying to bring the nunchucks into it, and you've got the Wii screen here, you've got that there, and you're trying to do things like this. Which is really... I know people can't see me, but I'm literally toggling with one hand and holding the Wii the Wii remote stick up in the air.
People can imagine.
Yeah, people can imagine. It's just so bizarre how things just wouldn't... It wasn't compatible enough. Whereas you look at the PlayStation, everything you could just move up. I know process powering and everything got better and graphics got better, but you could pop an old game into the PlayStation 2 and it would still work from your PlayStation 1. But this was just I don't know how they fitted it together, how they worked it. It just kind of, I know it's probably we're not praising it as much, but it just kind of, you lost a lot of that gaming ability.
But that's just a strange thing. I suppose Nintendo's attitude was just, once you get this new console, you don't need your old one. So just use the new one. But then, like PlayStation and Xbox then for this generation did abandon that, and your old discs from your PS3 won't work, on your PS4 and Xbox One, although Xbox are working on it.
Well, Xbox have.
Yeah.
That is.
It's now
retconned, like you can use 360 games, discs, physical discs.
But it certainly seems to be like all console makers' opinion is once you get a new one, that's the one you're playing. Like the Switch is going that way, and that you can't play your old Wii U games, and you're going to have to download them.
The honest truth is, for most gamers, it's the truth.
Well,
for most gamers, once you buy the new system, you kid yourself into thinking you're going to go back to your old one, but you kind of don't. You'd like to, and maybe you do occasionally, but...
Well, you see, I do. I mean, in my room I have my Wii U, my Wii, because I didn't do the transfer, so all my old stuff is still on my Wii, so I can use it as a separate console.
Yeah.
I have my PS4 and 2 PS3s, and then I have my Xbox One. So I do actually use every console.
I mean, me too, but I know that I'm not the norm.
But most people,
gamers do not do that. The vast majority of gamers sell their old console to pay for the new one and all the games. They don't even hold on to it. Never mind play it. So they're not totally off the money with thinking that people are going to do that. But again, the problem is, people didn't do it because they just didn't know that this was the new console, And I think that a big part of the Wii U's failure has been down to communication. Not because it's a bad console, not because it had bad games, but because people just didn't buy it because I just didn't know enough about it.
But what was your first experience of it then, Steve? Like, where did you first come across the Wii U? Like,
I'm trying to think.
like, was it the E3 announcement?
Yeah, it probably was the E3 announcement, to be honest. And you know, it made perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
As a gamer,
Did you think it looked cool? Like a good idea?
No. To be absolutely honest, no, I didn't. I thought it had some interesting ideas, but the truth, at that point, my Wii had been sitting gathering dust for a while.
Sure.
The Wii had stopped appealing to me. It had become sort of I didn't play any core gaming experiences on it, and I don't love motion controls. And I'd say, I've said this to Jason, just to inform you, I've said this to Josh on multiple occasions. I guess that to me, I represent maybe the typical gamer, not the Nintendo fan necessarily, although I am a Nintendo fan. I going back and right up to the GameCube, and even the Wii in its early days. I mean, GameCube's one of my favourite consoles of all time. And Wii U at the start was great, but it just became... there was so much shovelware on it. There was so much... I used motion controls at the start. I played Red Steel. Do you remember that game that came out there?
I loved it.
Played it. It was really good, but honestly, it just got to the point where I was like, I just prefer playing with a joypad. You know, I just prefer playing with a controller. That's the truth. I don't actually like, waving my hands around in the air to play these games that much, or at least it's for very specific experiences. It's not how I want to play Call of Duty or Battlefield or one of these big core games. I want to play that with a controller. So because the Wii had become stale to me, and because even though I could recognize this was a different console, it still did just seem like the same old thing. And again, when I looked at the big tablet controller, again, that wasn't a controller that I wanted to play with. It was still sort of, and I mean, it's hard to get, especially in Reggie's big bunch of bananas hands, it's hard to get a sense of scale, for what the tablet was like. I don't know if you've ever noticed, he's got big hands.
Oh, but the guy himself is just huge.
So it was hard for me. I was like, it kind of looks small in his hand, but I don't know. So
the size of a TV for all we know.
So my first time hands-on was playing on your Wii U, Josh.
Sure. Well, we'll get to that.
But what the point I was going to make was, the gaming on it is better than I thought it would be, but it's still not.
Yeah, you had to play it in order to know. What about you, Jace? Like, what was your first experience of the Wii U? How did you come across it?
An ecstatic 8-year-old who had... I can't remember how he was watching... It's got to be some kiddies network, and it flashed up, and it was there, and he went, "Oh, look at that! And that's better than what we've got here." And look how good the graphics are for Skylanders. Look how good, and you've got because he always found, and we found it kind of just doing the stuff with motion sensors and everything like that work good for some things, but you kind of think, how are you going to work all that? How does that work as well as from an old gamester like me who had PlayStation 1, had the joystick in your hand, and it was all, you had the vibration stuff come through it, but that worked better for me, and that's how I looked at it.
Yeah.
So you had that ability to do it, and I remember I can never remember what the PS1 racer game was where you were a wee spaceship. And you used to
F-Zero. Or no, sorry, Wipeout.
Wipeout.
F-Zero. Just immediately F-Zero.
Yeah. You had Wipeout, and you had that
brilliant game. Wipeout. Oh,
and when you crashed,
phenomenal.
Gave you that, and it was really cool and really superb, and really enjoyed it. And you kind of think, hey, this is really cool, but then you kind of in the Wii, you kind of brought in its fitness, it's making you move, no more fat gamer kids. It was really quite cool, and there were a couple of good games that Tom had. But then when the Wii U came out, it really did look, right, they're stepping this up. They're going to say, if you really love your gaming, this is going to do a lot more for you. It's going to give you a lot more expanse in the games you play and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, it looked really good. And Tom was it was just exciting. I think one of his friends already had it or were going to get it when it was coming out. It was just kind of one of the things he then kind of went, this is going to be really good, and chatting about it, and that's my first experience of it.
It's quite interesting and encouraging to hear you say that, you know, when you saw it, it was like, oh, this is going to be more engaging for gamers, because that's certainly what Nintendo's attitude was, you know.
Well, reading around it, that's what they were hoping, but I think I'm with Steve, they didn't give it enough push. They didn't say, this is what we're going to do, this is how it's going to help you, this is how it's going to change, and giving anything new to it.
Yeah, I mean, to be brutally honest, I kind of feel like they've done some of the same thing even with the Switch. I think Nintendo as a company are full of highly talented, creative individuals, and probably, as I said earlier, among the best game makers on the planet, who have no idea why the majority of people like their games and their systems, and how best to explain what these things do. And I just think communication, they're just a dog's dinner. Like,
they really are.
Games wise and consoles wise, they're fine. They just need somebody to come in and go, right, look guys, this is why people actually like your stuff. This is what we need to concentrate on, you know. But
well, I would say, yeah, like, my defense of it will be that they know why their games are good, but they don't know how to sell their consoles as such, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
And that, like, you know, with something like the DS and the Wii, it was easy for people to go, this is a great Wii system.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Wii U, and even the 3DS, like, you really needed to be in your hands and to play it to go, oh, this is why it's good. And, you know, I've said before, everyone I've had around who's played Nintendo Land has been giggling, you know, themselves silly playing Mario Chase and Luigi's Mansion.
Which is brilliant, and they work really, really well. But then you're saying about the Game Boy and the DS and everything, and just how that, because we had the progression. Well, I had the progression. I moved from the old big box.
Yeah, me too.
Moved up to
Game
the
Boy
Advance.
Yeah.
Then moved and
SP.
But then with Tom, my son, and my daughter Eleanor, kind of working in and getting the 3DS, and then to step up to the 3X, XL.
Yeah.
Sorry, getting there. But now I can see that, and I can see the change. I can see, yes, makes the gameplay very different, gives you more. You can see more of what's going on. It's a nicer hold. It's not so tiny. You're not kind of in here like this. You've got a good thing going on. Which with the Wii U and the Wii, I thought that's what, and I thought they were going to pitch that way. I thought, look here, you've got more expansive idea. You've got a better way to control. You can play different games because you have that little bit more. It's not like you're bowling, or you're hitting a golf ball or anything like that. And it really kind of worked really well. And I thought, brilliant, they're going to be able to get in, because we got Lego Avengers, which to play together was really good.
Yeah.
And it worked really well on both sides.
Flying around as Iron Man in that game is just so much fun.
It is.
Yeah.
And being Thor and swinging your hammer and away you go and everything like that was amazing. So I think that was one of it really worked quite well for that setup.
Steve, are you trying to sneak away?
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether to slip out or
No,
to make a big song and dance out of it. No. Yeah. Trying to think if there's any final wrap up thoughts on the Wii U that I might add to proceedings.
Sparcumber Road.
Yeah, that's probably my receipt.
See, one thing you could say, it saved a lot of TVs.
Wii U.
Because you could play without the TV.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just one of those things that I think I've always admired Nintendo's quirkiness. The GameCube is just like, we've talked about this before, Josh, consoles aren't really fun anymore.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, even the Switch is not particularly fun.
No.
The console, they're all just black boxes now.
Yeah.
The GameCube was the last one that really made me giggle just looking at it.
Yeah.
Like, it was just fun.
It had a handle.
Bright purple, and it had a handle, and it was a little cube. It was just fun.
Yeah.
And it felt like Nintendo had more of their real core games that that were quirky, but they were, I don't know, I think that the Wii games, those real sort of, all the Wii Sports and play and stuff like that just never clicked with me. I'm not a casual gamer, and and they're not casual games, but aesthetically even, there's, what I love about Nintendo is the same thing most of us love about Nintendo. I love Mario, Zelda. I've said for a long time, they bring out a new Mario Golf, I'm there. I love Mario Golf. Mario Golf, Mario Kart, Mario in proper 3D, Zelda. And, they have a few other old franchises. When they were the main sort of platform for Rare games as well, like they were just at their absolute heights. But, Rare went on to make some pretty wick stuff in the end up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. I all I'll say is Switch has me more excited than Wii U ever did.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to get on board with Nintendo again, and
we'll be happy to welcome you back.
Josh always tells me that once he gets his Switch, he was like, "I'm going to lend you my Wii U, and you're going to see the big mistake you made not playing it."
Totally missed out.
Yeah, but anyway.
Well, thank you, Steve.
Yes.
We shall see you soon. So, now that Steve's gone, we're going to talk about what our favourite games were on the Wii U. I own, what looks like nearly 20 games for the Wii U. I think the most games I've ever owned for a console was the GameCube, and I think I had about 40, which is mad.
I suppose it was the PlayStation 1. I had about 40 games for that.
Yeah. I think it was when I was working in game that... it was definitely when I was working game. It was the GameCube era, and then the Wii came out while I was still there. So, there were deals of the week, and things like that meant because I worked there, I was always aware of them and almost always got them.
But maybe somewhat cheaper as well.
Yeah, and I would say with the Wii, I probably got them for I've probably got about 30 Wii games. So the Wii U, certainly it would have been a declining thing as the amount I've got. And I just want to give, we're going to try and do a top 5, but I'm going to go for, some honourable mentions first. I talked previously on a podcast about the Assassin's Creed games, and I've played Assassin's Creed 3 and Black Flag, both on the Wii U. And what I loved about them on the Wii U was having the tablet remote, and I think those are games that benefited from it, from having the map and your inventory and stuff like that.
So you had your map down here, and then you had your main screen on the...
Yeah, so you were able to play them off TV, so it was just all on the tablet, but the best way to play it was definitely with the dual screen thing. The other one is Call of Duty Ghosts. I'd never played a COD game with the motion controls before on the Wii or the Wii U, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was actually the best way to play, and so to the point that I can't critically say how good Call of Duty Ghosts is as a game, just because I enjoyed the actual playing of it so much, that I couldn't critique the story or anything, because I just have these memories of places where, just aiming with your controller to shoot was just so satisfying, and it makes me wish that was the way I could play all COD games now. The other honourable mentions are things like the Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess, which are just amazing Zelda games that are for the Wii U, and highly recommended. Some of the best games ever made, but because they weren't Wii U, made for the Wii U, they're made for the GameCube and the Wii. I'm not going to include them in the list. Wii Fit U is great. It's not going to, convince you to get fit. You have to want to get fit, and It's a good facility to do that. But the games in themselves make exercise fun, as opposed to, it's a fun game that you also happen to be exercising,
I suppose the whole thing of the Wii, wasn't it, really? That was the whole idea of it. You're getting fit, having fun.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to want to get fit.
Yes, you do. You need to be ready to go.
Other honourable mentions include New Super Mario Bros., which I haven't played enough of, same with Star Fox. Lego City Undercover is fantastic. Possibly my second, I would go for second favourite Lego game. Star Wars, the Star Wars first 6 episodes is just fantastic. But Lego City Undercover is, GTA in the Lego world, and just amazing fun, good clean humour, lots of movie references to such a wide range of movies. If you're a Wii U owner, I consider that to be absolutely essential. Wonderful 101, which is a platinum game. I'm not even going to try and explain that one. Platinum fans will know what to expect. Smash Bros. Here's the Nintendo ones that aren't going to make the top 5. Super Smash Bros. Now, I think it's probably the best version of Smash Bros. And the fact that you can have up to 8 people playing at once is
good fun.
Amazing. I still haven't even done it though. Do you know what I mean?
It's getting 8 people that have a Wii U together.
Yeah, well, it's more just having the amount of controllers. Like I have, I think 4 or 5 Wiimotes. And then I have enough GameCube controllers then actually that can make up the 8, so I do have enough. It's just about getting people around. Right. But having 8 people who want to play Smash Bros, that's the hard part. It
is the hard part. Not unless you've put together some kind of gaming party.
Yeah,
like you come around.
I don't have a big pool of gaming friends that I know 8 Smash Bros fans. Like I could probably get up to 4, and then the others I'd just be like, this is fun, just come play it. Mario 3D World, which I think is fantastic. I think it's underrated because it's not Galaxy. People were disappointed, but it's just a perfect progression from 3D Land, which was on the 3DS. Very good game. Rayman Legends is one of the best co-op experiences I've ever had. Steve and I played through that together and just laughed so often and got frustrated so often, but just kept going. Like it's one of those perfect games where it's hard, but every time you die it's because you made a mistake, not because the game's unfair, and so it's compulsive and you just keep going.
Weren't able to grab the vine, you weren't able to stick your thing to this, you weren't able to get to where you were supposed to be.
It's because always your fault, just because you didn't hit the button at the right time or you jumped too early or too late. Very like Mario. Within that, every time we finished a game, a round of the main game, we played Kung Foot, which is a football game 1-on-1 or 2-on-2, and again just a mini game they threw in, which is ridiculously good fun. And yeah, like there's in the main game there's a level called Castle Rock, which is a rhythm action level where what happens goes in time with the song Black Betty. But it's sung in a Rayman style, and it is just fantastic. Again, a Wii U highlight. Speaking of Wii U highlights, Nintendo Land is an essential purchase for every Wii U owner. So if you don't have it, go get it. It's just so much fun.
Yeah, I take it you can download it without any problem.
Yeah, I think it's cheap enough to download, but some places are selling it for like £6 on disc. So I'm assuming that's going to be
keep an eye out.
Yeah, it's well worth doing. Even if you're playing it by yourself, I think the other games have enough to keep you interested, but it's primarily it's the fun that was within the multiplayer stuff. So one of our big honourable mentions, which you're going to have a quick chat about, is Skylanders. Tell us about Skylanders, Jason.
Well, I think the last 2 they've brought out now, for a father of a 10-year-old, a 9 and a 10-year-old when they came out, they are expansively fun. You can, as a father and son duo, walk around the world doing what you need to do to upgrade your Skylander, to be able to catch who you need to catch, to become a villain and have fun running around, upgrading your villains as well. And even with the new one, where you're able to build these new and interesting Skylanders together, and put them together and have fun, just general good fun, running around, beating up small balls of green with teeth and all kinds of stuff like that. It's a good fun game, and you can get so frustrated with each other because you're trying to get chests over here and they're running off over that way, and I'm sure everybody's played a Skylander game, you're bonded when you play together, so you can't go too far away from each other. So you're over here trying to get somewhere and they're off over that way, so there's all the hilarity of you going, I can't stretch that far, get over back over here, and the way it just works very well on the Wii U. They work well on the Wii, but it's a bit more confusing sometimes because you would get caught up, but you can have one playing on the handheld, and you've got one of you like that, which makes the whole enjoyment of the game better, because one person is more mobile. And sometimes you do, when you've got your nunchuck and you're trying to move around, you can get a bit lost and you're off somewhere else, and they are keeping the whole gameplay working and keep it going, which is very enjoyable.
And
Very
what
enjoyable.
about the toys to life side of stuff? Like, did you buy a lot of the Skylanders figurines?
Oh yes. So you got here. Tom has a double-sized shoebox full of them,
Wow.
and so we've got every incarnation except for the original, which was the Spyro, which is when they brought back Spyro. Do you ever play Spyro on the
I played on the PlayStation. Yeah.
So it was their kind of regeneration of Spyro, and it became a Skylander, and it was all this kind of stuff. So that's Spyro's Adventure is the only one we don't have. We have all the other ones.
Okay, poor Spyro.
Yes. Poor Spyro's not there, but like, we've got Giants, we've got all the ones. So he's got all the Giants, he's got all the other Wii ones and everything like that. Never really, he got to being a bit of Skylanders fan, he got the racing one, which was never very good with the Cooper injection and everything like that,
yeah.
which wasn't really a very fun game. It
Okay.
didn't work very well, and I think that's why they so quickly brought out Trap Team.
Sure.
Trap Team encompassed it, just wiped it out straight away. I don't know anybody who thought it was fun out of Tom's cronies he would talk about.
Sure.
Nobody thought it was a good game, but the other two on the Wii U have been marvellous fun.
Great. That sounds fun, like having that co-op like play.
Yes.
Well,
I suppose the segue is quite nice into Splatoon.
we're not splitting
We're
yet.
not Splatooning yet.
The next one is Lego Marvel, which if you guys played that as a co-op, then
We've played that as co-op of being Thor and Iron Man. Well, it's where you go through, you have different peoples, you have different companions.
your first playthrough you're forced to play as specific people, aren't you? And then afterwards it's free play where you can.
Yeah, but then
choose
in
your
specific
character.
areas, you're different people as well. You're different
Okay.
heroes.
Yeah.
So you step into different heroes.
Yeah.
So it's, let's say, like swinging your hammer and flying around like Thor and doing a lot of the acrobatic stuff with Iron Man are great fun.
Yeah.
But then again, it's the same. You are connected,
Sure.
so you can't go too far from each other.
Of course. Yeah.
And so you're trying to do something over here again, and you've got that whole idea of being drawn to where they are. But then, as well, a very frustrating game.
Okay.
Because of some of the ways they've put things together, it's very hard to work out what you're supposed to do as the Pacific hero. So sometimes you need a Pacific hero
Yes.
to do something,
Yeah.
to get over something, or to get through something, to make something else happen. I think we got stuck somewhere, Thor and Iron Man, and we couldn't get beyond the trench. There was a trench. You had to smash things up,
Okay.
build them, and then there was another set of gates.
Sure.
And then we spent hours
Yeah.
trying to find out what it was and getting frustrated, and finally did it, and then moved on. But you kind of, it is good, kind of not in a Rayman kind of way where you feel, oh yeah, I did something wrong. You're just going, how have they done it?
So it's a sort of puzzle element to it then, like incorporating the characters.
Yeah,
like
it is a good puzzle, but I don't think there's other games that have good puzzle stuff which you can work out quite quickly,
Sure.
and you kind of think, oh right, oh no, right, that's not right. But I think within that game, it was a bit too, maybe a little bit too much thought
Sure.
went into it, where they could have been a lot easier. It could have been smash that, build that, a bit like Lego Dimensions, where it is smash that, build that, that works.
Sure.
Whereas this was a bit more, and with the, I suppose a little bit like the Star Wars one as well. There are certain sections you built everything, but you weren't able to do. They're asking you to do something, and it wouldn't work. You're kind of
Okay.
oh, you've got to go back out, come back in again, rebuild. No, come back out, go back in, all that kind of stuff. Now, which is fun for an older gamer, because
Sure.
you've got the mentality. You go, okay, but for a younger gamer, it's a bit kind of like.
You need something more immediate. Yeah,
Yes, you need something
going.
that kind of brings you to that fruition quickly.
Yeah.
Well, not quickly, but quicker.
Yeah.
So they're sort of frustrating, but good games, nicely done. Good
Yeah.
Lego games, really nicely put together, nice graphics, nice flow.
I find that's the thing, like with Lego games, even when they make a game that's not as good as others, they're still always very good games.
Yeah.
Like they're always good fun, and they make so much use of the universes that they're set in and the characters that
Yeah.
are involved. That it's an impressive show. So we're heading into what I would consider the top 5 games, and it's the top 5 of the games we've played. Because we haven't played every Wii U game there is. There's ones that are going to be missed out. Or
some that you wouldn't play with a 10-year-old anyway.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Which brings us to our number 5 game, which for me is ZombiU, which I know you haven't played.
No.
And I don't know how you'd ever manage to play it or have it in the house without Tom finding it when he shouldn't. But like, this was one of the early games. Like, it came out, it was a launch title. It was one that a third party, Ubisoft, had put so much work into utilising the Wii U and to such an amazing effect. It had that sort of Dark Souls kind of feel where you die a lot, but
Yes.
what they did was incorporate that into the gameplay where you have a backpack with all your tools and guns, and if you die, your backpack gets left there. Your character gets killed, the zombies eat them or whatever, but the backpack's left there. So as your next character, you have to get back to that point and survive. Otherwise, if you die again, that stuff's gone and you start from scratch. And it just made great use of the control screen. Like, when you needed to get something from your inventory, you'd hit the bag button and your character on the screen would take the bag. It would go from first person to third person. You'd see them take the bag down, and then on the tablet remote you see inside the bag, and you have to select your items. So zombies can still be coming at you while you're trying to select your items, so you have to be quick and then get your gun out and then, you know, get on with the game. Just absolutely, like, I do find it hard, even among the Nintendo games, to think of a better use of the tablet controller, and it's so disappointing because, you know, a sequel was planned, but the sales just weren't good enough, and so.
I think I hit a lot of those games, though, didn't it? Really,
yeah.
There was if it wasn't a big seller or it had bits to go with it, kind of a lot of people it just wasn't sold.
Yeah,
and I suppose it was.
And that's the thing. Like, they you know, Ubisoft then released it on other consoles, and it just didn't get as good reviews because it didn't have that same experience, you know, that you had on the. I
suppose the thing about it as well, the Wii U was kind of targeted at that kind of 8 to 12.
Yeah.
In some ways, so a lot of the zombie ones, a lot of stuff they couldn't play.
Yeah.
I think kind of lost a lot of that impetus.
Well, and that was the tough thing that Nintendo were trying to balance, like going from the Wii to the Wii U, and that they wanted to reach the core gamer, so they had something like ZombiU, but they didn't want to alienate all the kids and families that were playing the Wii. Yeah. So, you know, this one was a tough sell, and unfortunately, again, it was a game that needed to be experienced in order to appreciate why it's so good. Number 4, I'm gonna go for Pikmin 3.
Interesting choice.
I know it's actually really hard to pick between these ones, but you'll see why when we get to the rest. Pikmin 3 is, I don't know whether it's my favourite Pikmin. Like, Pikmin 2 I think was a longer game. I know Nintendo struggled when they moved to the Wii U. It was like having HD graphics and the amount of work that goes into building those worlds was so much more intensive than they were expecting, and Pikmin 3 was an early enough game, so it looks phenomenal. Like, it just looks absolutely amazing. For anyone who's not played a Pikmin game before, like, you start off just landing on the planet or the area, and these wee local inhabitants called Pikmin come to help you, and you can grow more. Basically, they can get eaten or drowned or catch on fire, and every time they die, their little soul floats off to heaven, and you hear this wee oh.
It's very good.
And you're devastated, like, especially when your first one goes, you're just like, oh, this is awful. Or at other times, you just hear a load of them crying, and you don't realise that some of them have wandered off, you know, into the water and are drowning, which, like, they don't wander off by themselves. It's your fault that they've gone
You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, and they've just all drifted.
Yeah, and so they're like whining, and you have to whistle at them to get them to come out of the water. If you don't do it in time, then you hear oh, and they all float off. And but it's just a great strategy game, and you know, with the first game there was a time limit, and people complained about that. With the second, there was no time limit. And so I think people maybe found it too easy. So with this one, there's an overall game time limit and, you know, a day and night cycle.
Yeah.
So like there is pressure to get things done in a certain time, and you know, I did find myself panicking quite often, and you put so much work into a day, and then if you don't get to where you were intending to get to, you have to do it again. So it just, I don't know, like,
I can honestly say that Tom and Ella played it a lot, and the guffaws of laughter and all the fun they had with that, and the angst as they were shouting at each other that it needs to get here, or that's my chest, or this is mine and I'm whacking that and you're not whacking it properly, or That was great. I think they really enjoyed.
So it's great as a co-op game as well, then, because I've obviously only played it by myself. So
Ella and Tom have played it loads. I've played once, I think, alongside Tom.
Yeah.
And he just trounced me every time. I wasn't able to get anything. And my wee Pikmin kept disappearing, and I wasn't able to grow and get any bigger or get a hammer or get anything to beat the strange, bizarre creatures that you were supposed to destroy.
Yeah.
But the kids loved it. They thought it was great fun.
It's a great strategy game. Like it's one of those games that, you know, people who don't have Nintendo consoles are seriously missing out by not getting to play. So that was number 4. Number 3, we are going to go for, I think, Splatoon. Now, it's maybe unfair, and it's because I haven't played enough of Splatoon.
I would have put it a bit higher. I really enjoyed it. I think it was the first one. The first thing we got when we got the Wii U. First game we had on it, and the first game we played together, and it was just hilarious.
Yeah.
Just trying to get round. Now, building up all your weaponry and everything like that is fun, but literally just going in and having that first turf battle.
Yeah.
And people coming in with your giant rollers of paint, and you're trying blah 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 them, and then you get completely lost because you end up you're in the sky somewhere, and you're trying to reorientate yourself and get yourself back to where you should be, and people are hitting you from each side, and I think just the whole interaction when you're in the plaza, and you can turn into a squid and you can squid off and all that kind of stuff, and going buying new clothes, and just the general. I think it was kind of semi-safe chat. I think some of it was a bit odd. You kind of think, really, maybe you're an older gamer, you shouldn't really be in doing it. But
I
think generally it was quite a nice, safe, fun shoot 'em up.
Yeah.
Which kind of gave you a lot to do, a lot of physical things to do, and to be up and to be moving, and to have to reorientate yourself and bring yourself. Because like we started off trying to play it sitting down.
Yeah.
And you kind of think you can't do this sitting down.
Yeah.
So you're up and you're moving around. I thought it was brilliant. And you either had the big one or you had the remotes, and just stand there. It was good fun.
And I think the thing I really like about Splatoon is like it can be a really intense battle, or you can just be the person having fun running about with your roller, painting the ground, or swimming through the ink to recharge, and it's just, you know, it just brings so much joy. And I think I've always said that about Nintendo. The Nintendo difference is joy. There's something
in everything they do. There's a bit of joy in every game
that like other game developers just don't quite get. You know, some do and some come close, but Nintendo just have, as they call it, the Nintendo difference, and certainly it's that joy for me. So number 2 is a bit of a controversial one because it's technically Bayonetta 2. But I've only played Bayonetta 1. I was one of these people who hadn't played Bayonetta before, had no idea. Bayonetta was my first platinum. Wonderful 101 was my first platinum game, but Bayonetta was the first time I really understood what their combat system was and why it was amazing. And that's not to say I didn't enjoy Wonderful 101. It's just that having played Bayonetta, I think I could go back and be better at it now that I understand how they work. But I was one of the people who got the 15,000 limited edition versions, which had Bayonetta 1 and 2 together and an art book and stuff. And so I've only played Bayonetta 1 so far, and I didn't want to just go straight into 2.
Give you some bit of time off.
Yeah, so, but I based on other people's opinions of it either being, you know, more of the same or just a brilliant game, you know, it sounds like Bayonetta 2 deserves its place as number 2, although your arguments for Splatoon were very convincing that I'm always convinced I should change it. But let's see if number 1 is accurate, because I have Mario Kart 8 as number 1.
Class, no, absolutely. That is a worthy number 1.
Yeah.
Because it is just so much fun.
Yeah.
Just to have, I remember I think Tom got it for a birthday, and just all 4 of us sat down and just played it. Just one of those great family games, and it was like top game for about 3 months.
Yeah.
Anybody who came into the house, that was what they did.
Yeah.
And they just played it. I remember we had friends come up from Dublin, and 3 kids came up, and they interchanged and kept playing. First thing they played in the morning. Both nieces came over straight in, and cousins all together, fighting, playing, and it was I think just the sequences were good, the graphics were good, the racetracks were amazing, and some were so difficult you didn't know where you were going, what you were doing. Some were just bizarre, with like one going through the farm and you hit the cows and the gophers come up through the ground and pump you out or knock you this way. Or I think it was just so fun, and unlocking new characters and getting new cars and just beating it was just fun.
Yeah, I think like the big difference between Splatoon and Mario Kart for me, and why Mario Kart, gets the top spot, is that it's just so much more easily accessible to the random punter coming through the door. Like Splatoon takes a bit of explanation and getting used to the controls.
Yeah.
Whereas with Mario Kart, you just sit them down and even say hit A to go and use your stick, and they're in the game. And then you start explaining, well, you can use items this way, you can jump and boost this way, and
most people just kind of pick it up in there. You've got because we had all steering wheels, so everything was put into steering wheels, so it was all more accessible and easier. And just you're there and you're turning and you're moving it and you're hitting and you're firing things, and it just worked really well.
Yeah.
Sorry, just miming steering.
Yes, it's enjoyable for anybody to watch. And I think, like for me, I hadn't played Mario Kart seriously since Double Dash on the GameCube, which was where you had two people on each cart, and you could each one could hold an item.
Never heard of that one.
You fire one item, you switch characters, and then the other one fires his item. So there was a bit of a tactical thing to it, and like I just haven't been obsessed by Mario Kart, since then. But Mario Kart 8, like I have played a ton, and unfortunately we won't have time for my activity log this week. We'll have to look at it next week. But because I don't know how many hours I put into it, but I just know it's so many more than a Mario Kart in a long time.
I bet. And
the one thing that just is amazing is having played it and got the DLC as well, unlocking 200cc mode, and it just like blasting your face off with the speed. Like everybody really wants an F-Zero game, and F-Zero is like Wipeout, very fast, and there's a couple of tracks in Mario Kart 8 that are based from the F-Zero series, Mute City, and so to actually get Mario Kart in 200cc puts you so close to that F-Zero
really
experience.
is, especially even when you get the mag wheels and it's just so fast. You're trying to keep on, and you just you're going to go off because you just can't bring it back around because it's going so fast.
And I feel like the speed helps you to appreciate some of the flips and turns as well of the tracks, that when it's a bit slower and wider, it feels like a gentle movement, but at 200cc, like you just feel like you probably are, the gravity is going to shift, and I just think it's fantastic.
A worthy number one.
Really,
absolutely.
Just can't really beat it, to be honest. And I sort of begrudgingly say that because for me, like I'm a real I love multiplayer games, but I really love single player experiences as well. And I always want like if Zelda had come out, there is no doubt in my mind that would be the number one Wii U game. And when it does come out, I will officially announce it as that, even though I'll be playing it on Switch. Zelda will be the best game on the Wii U. But so it's just a testament to how much fun Mario Kart is, that it is the one that takes the top spot, because I played it majoritively by myself or online. And again, when you say it as a multiplayer game, you associate that with playing it with other people, but it's just such a good game that it's even fun just by yourself.
It really is,
which is impressive stuff. So I think
well crowned.
That's the end of our Wii U-logy. It was a wee bit rushed, but
yes, but
I think we got everything covered. I know that there are games that are missed. I certainly hope there aren't any in my own collection that I've forgotten to talk about. In fact, there are. I know there are. There's ones in that thing. Right, hang on. We might need some quick honourable mentions because Jason needs to leave. I've got a storage thing by my TV here, which may have one or two games in it. Do you know it's the only one that I thought of that was in there, and it's Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze.
Yeah, I never saw that. Never played that one.
Very good. Very hard. Yeah, well worth playing, but I don't think it would have made the top 5. It's made by Retro, who are the ones that we all want to make a new Metroid game.
Oh yes, Tom loves Metroid.
Yeah, so have you got the Metroid Prime Trilogy, actually?
I don't know what one he got. He downloaded one.
Yeah, the Metroid Prime trilogy was released on the Wii U, and it has the 3 games from 2 are from the GameCube era and 1's from the Wii U, and they're amazing. So yeah, I think that wraps us up for this week. You're not on Twitter, are you, Jason?
I'm not. No,
Yeah.
I don't tweet.
So there's no real way of the other people following you or having conversations about you. Maybe someday you'll write an article for the website, and then
I'm open to that.
they can have a chat with you there. I am at Joshua Galbraith on Twitter. Steve is Big Design House, and the website itself is at Games, Movies, etc. on Twitter. Come to the website as well. We've got some articles going up. Hopefully by the end of the week, we've got plenty of fun stuff already up there for you to read, and please do start and join some discussions on the website with us and with the other people reading, and we will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye bye.